China has begun accelerated island building on Antelope Reef in the northern end of the South China Sea, which could end up as China's biggest military base in this critical waterway, of which Beijing claims more than 80% under its 10-dash line. Vietnam has ample historical evidence and legal grounds to affirm our sovereignty over the Paracel Islands, including Antelope Reef. In accordance with international law, any foreign activities conducted there without Vietnam's permission are completely illegal and invalid.
In just weeks, China transformed Antelope Reef in the South China Sea from this to this.
Something enormous just appeared in the South China Sea, and the United States didn't see it coming. Not a warship, not a missile launch, an entire island, built from nothing in under 6 months. The Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative confirmed this is the first significant artificial island building China has undertaken in the South China Sea since 2017, at a reef called Antelope Reef in the Paracel Islands. A reef that barely existed on maps 18 months ago. Now, satellite photos published by Newsweek show it is already large enough to fit a 9,000-foot military runway, surface-to-air missile batteries, radar installations, underground storage facilities, and an entire naval lagoon capable of harboring warships. And China built it while America was looking the other way, because America's aircraft carriers, Marines, and spy planes were all consumed by the Middle East. This is not a coincidence. This is a strategy, and it is working right now. Before we reveal exactly how large Antelope Reef has already grown and why CSIS analysts say it could become China's largest military base in the entire South China Sea, why the Pentagon is facing a carrier gap in the Pacific that leaves only one carrier to cover Taiwan, Korea, and the South China Sea simultaneously, how US spy plane missions dropped 30% in a single month while China was dredging around the clock, what China's military drones were caught doing over the South China Sea that analysts are calling a step change in gray zone warfare, why Vietnam is now frantically building its own islands in a scramble analysts call a Pandora's box, and what happens when America's attention snaps back to the Pacific and finds an entirely new Chinese military fortress sitting in waters it used to dominate. Because what Xi Jinping just built, while every American general was watching Iran burn, is the full picture that changes everything about who controls the Pacific. We connect it, right now. Here is what appeared in the South China Sea and why the satellite images are terrifying. According to Newsweek, satellite imagery from the European Space Agency's Sentinel-2 satellites shows new dredging at Antelope Reef began sometime after October 2025. In November 2025, the reef appeared largely undisturbed, just a small existing installation along its southeastern edge. By January 2026, Janes confirmed new infrastructure had emerged, including a clearly defined access way and roll-on/roll-off berths, features consistent with the landing and movement of heavy construction equipment. Preparations, deliberate, calculated. Then it exploded. Planet Labs satellite images published by United 24 Media show the rapid expansion of Antelope Reef between December 19, 2025 and March 7, 2026, 3 months. That is all China needed to transform a submerged coral formation into a military platform visible from space. Think about what exists there now. The Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative at CSIS confirmed that Antelope Reef could now support a 9,000-foot runway, the exact same runway length China has already built at Woody Island, Mischief Reef, Subi Reef, and Fiery Cross Reef. The same runways that host fighter jets, bombers, and anti-ship missile systems today. The northwestern side of the new landmass has been fashioned with a noticeably straight outer edge, perfect for an airstrip. Over 50 small, gray-roofed structures and a helipad already visible near the lagoon entrance. Foundations for a larger structure measuring 100 by 60 yards already poured in the southern corner. And the lagoon, large enough to accommodate planned warships and maritime militia vessels permanently. Harrison Preta, deputy director at CSIS's Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, told the Wall Street Journal, "This is the first time in a long time that they have reopened this basket of being able to build islands extremely large and extremely quickly. Extremely large. Extremely quickly." That is a Washington think tank analyst, not a Chinese propaganda outlet, describing what Beijing just did. Now look at the total size and what it means for every ship that passes nearby. Asia Times reported that the reclaimed land at Antelope Reef is roughly 6.11 square kilometers, comparable in size to Mischief Reef, China's previous largest artificial island. That makes Antelope Reef potentially the largest Chinese-controlled feature in the entire South China Sea. Not just the paracels, the entire sea. One reef, 6 months. 6 square kilometers of military real estate rising from the ocean floor. Think about what that real estate enables. A July 2025 article published by the People's Liberation Army itself stated that China's South China Sea outposts provide all-weather and all-round situational awareness capabilities that can effectively monitor every move of military forces within the area. Every move, every ship, every patrol flight, every submarine track. Antelope Reef sits 281 kilometers from China's Sanya Naval Hub on Hainan, close enough to resupply daily, close enough to rotate aircraft continuously, and positioned directly astride a trade corridor that carries 1/3 of all global maritime commerce, according to Asia Times. 1/3 of global trade, one new Chinese military fortress, watching all of it. Here is what China was watching while it was building, and why it chose this exact moment. The U.S. Naval Institute Fleet Tracker confirmed as of March 30th, 2026, that the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group had been redeployed from the South China Sea to the Middle East, with the USS George Washington also underway from Yokosuka, Japan to join it. 2 carrier strike groups, both pulled from the Pacific, both aimed at Iran. USNI News confirmed the Abraham Lincoln's departure marked the 3rd time a strike group deployed to the Indo-Pacific was redirected to the Middle East due to instability in the region. 3rd time. In under 2 years. America keeps making the same trade. Pacific security for Middle Eastern firepower, and China watches and waits and builds. Think about what one carrier departure means for the entire Pacific. Asia Times reported that with only one U.S. carrier strike group remaining in the Pacific, the U.S. might be facing a serious carrier gap, weakening its ability to respond to multiple hotspots, including the Korean Peninsula, the Taiwan Strait, and the South China Sea simultaneously. One carrier, 3 potential war zones. The math doesn't work, and Beijing knows it. But here is what makes it worse. The Marines went too. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, built around the USS Tripoli amphibious assault ship, was already deployed to the Middle East, with the 11th MEU centered on the USS Boxer also en route from San Diego, 2 amphibious ready groups, gone from the Pacific. The forces designed specifically for island chain operations, rapid response, and forward deployed deterrence in the first island chain, absent. 1945 noted that Abraham Lincoln's redeployment reignited debates over whether the U.S. Navy's supercarrier fleet is being stretched too thin. With only 11 active large carriers and fixed rotational schedules for maintenance and training, deploying one across multiple crises inevitably impacts readiness elsewhere. 11 carriers, the entire planet to cover, and China has 3, all of them staying home, all of them in the Pacific. And then the eyes went dark too. Now look at the surveillance collapse and what China did the moment America stopped watching. The South China Morning Post reported in March 2026 that U.S. reconnaissance flights over the South China Sea dropped 30% month-on-month in February. The South China Sea strategic situation. Probing initiative confirmed only 72 U.S. reconnaissance aircraft sorties over the South China Sea in February, down sharply from 102 flights in both January and December. 30% in 1 month. 102 flights became 72. 30 fewer missions watching China's moves. 30 fewer flights monitoring what 22 dredging ships were doing at Antelope Reef around the clock. The SCMP noted the drop coincided directly with the U.S. military buildup ahead of its attack on Iran, described by some analysts as the biggest military buildup in the Middle East since 2003. Translation: America built the biggest Middle East force since Iraq and left the Pacific's front door wide open. Think about what China was doing with those unsupervised hours, and it gets darker. The Japan Times reported in February 2026 that a large Chinese military drone had been conducting regular flights over the South China Sea while transmitting false transponder signals, making it appear to be other aircraft, including a sanctioned Belarusian cargo plane and a British Typhoon fighter jet. Military attachés and security analysts called this a step change in China's gray zone tactics. At least 23 flights logged under a single call sign while the drone spoofed foreign aircraft identities. Testing, rehearsing, deceiving. Testing what exactly? The Japan Times analysis concluded the flights appeared to be testing possible decoy capabilities in the event of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Decoy drones, fake transponders, a new military island growing at breakneck speed below them. This is not peacetime posturing. This is preparation, systematic, patient, deliberate. Here is what the new island actually threatens, and why the cost to destroy it may already be impossible. Gregory Poling, writing for War on the Rocks, calculated that it could take up to 300 missiles to destroy China's major Spratlys outposts, 100 missiles for Woody Island, and dozens more for smaller outposts. Now add Antelope Reef. Now add what it is becoming: missile batteries, radar arrays, fighter jet hangars, electronic warfare installations built into 6 square kilometers of reinforced concrete. How many missiles does it take to destroy that? And when America is already burning through interceptors fighting Iran, where do those extra hundreds of missiles come from? Think about China's runway repair capability that makes destruction even harder. Asia Times reported that the PLA has adopted quick-drying concrete, specialized engineering equipment, and structured repair drills, integrating local militias and civilian construction assets under its military-civil fusion strategy. America hit Syria's Al-Shayrat airbase with 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles in 2017. The base was repaired within hours. Flight operations resumed the same day. China studied that lesson. Built repair capacity into every island. Strike the runway, they patch it overnight. Strike again, same result. And America runs out of Tomahawks before China runs out of concrete. The AEI and Institute for the Study of War noted in their March 2026 China-Taiwan update that China increased its oil stockpile significantly before the Middle East conflict erupted, importing 15.8% more oil in January and February 2026 than the same period the prior year. China's strategic reserves now sit at approximately 1.2 billion barrels. China watched Iran teach America what happens when energy infrastructure burns, and China pre-positioned its own energy supply before the lesson even started. Now here is what the neighbors are doing, and why this reveals Xi's neighbors are panicking even if Xi is not. A March 2026 Chatham House article confirmed that Vietnam has rapidly expanded reclamation work across all 21 of its controlled features in the Spratly Islands, explicitly framing it as a response to China's island building. Vietnam has dredged approximately 13.4 square kilometers of coral reef since 2022. China has dredged 18.8 square kilometers. The analysts warned this has opened a Pandora's box of competitive island building across the entire region. Every nation watching China build Antelope Reef is now building their own version in a desperate scramble for position. Vietnamese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Pham Thu Hang told reporters, "Vietnam resolutely opposes such activities. Any foreign activities conducted in the Paracel Islands without Vietnam's permission are completely illegal." China's response? Beijing's foreign ministry called the Paracels China's inherent territory. Inherent, not disputed, not contested, theirs. And with an island the size of Mischief Reef growing in those waters backed by fighter jets and missile batteries, who is actually going to stop them? The Philippines and the United States announced plans for broader security engagements in 2026, including deployment of U.S. missiles and uncrewed systems to deter Chinese aggression, with an additional $144 million invested in Philippine infrastructure under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. The two militaries have conducted over 500 exercises since 2024. 500 exercises. And China is still building a runway large enough for nuclear-capable bombers 250 miles from Philippine shores. Exercises do not stop dredgers. Statements do not stop concrete. And America's carriers are still in the Middle East. One thing is absolutely certain. China resumed island construction for the first time since 2017, building Antelope Reef from a sandbar into a 6.11 square kilometer military platform in under 6 months. Satellite imagery confirms a 9,000-foot runway edge already shaped on the northwest side of the reclaimed land. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group was pulled from the South China Sea to the Middle East, the third such redirection in under 2 years. The USS George Washington followed, leaving the Pacific potentially down to one carrier strike group covering Taiwan, Korea, and the South China Sea simultaneously. U.S. reconnaissance flights dropped 30% in February 2026. Exactly while China was dredging around the clock. Chinese military drones were caught spoofing foreign aircraft transponders over the South China Sea in what analysts explicitly called rehearsal for a Taiwan invasion scenario. Vietnam responded by frantically expanding across 21 island positions in a regional arms race analysts called a Pandora's box. China pre-purchased 15.8% more oil before the Middle East conflict erupted, stockpiling reserves for a potential blockade scenario. And it took America until the island was already built to notice any of it. So here's what happens next. America's carriers are in the Middle East. America's Marines are in the Middle East. America's spy planes stopped flying. And in that silence, China built a military city on the ocean. When the Iran war ends and America turns back to the Pacific, it will find something in the South China Sea that was not there before. A fully armed Chinese fortress sitting directly on the trade routes that carry 1/3 of global commerce, 281 kilometers from China's own coast, impossible to destroy without hundreds of missiles America no longer has in stock. Whether Xi Jinping is panicking or whether he is sitting in Beijing right now, watching this plan unfold exactly as designed, that is the question nobody in Washington wants to answer. Stay tuned.